So you're thinking about financing a car loan here in the Philippines. Well, I got some news for you, and unfortunately, it's not going to be good news. So, first of all, if you're looking to lease a car, forget about it. Leases do not exist here in the Philippines. They don't even know what I'm talking about when I bring it up, to be honest with you. Some of the car dealers, they don't train their people on it because they don't do it. So the first loan kind of loan that I've seen out here is the Rule of 78 loan, which means Rule of 78, which means the interest on the whole car loan is paid up front, and then as you go on, that you're paying a lot less interest. That's a Rule of 78 loan. So if you're financing a car and you got $5,000 worth of interest, not principal, interest, you'll pay a lot more of that 5,000 in years one, two, three, and then it'll go down in four, and then it'll go down in five, a lot in the fifth year. But you're paying the majority of your interest up front, years one, two, three. That's a bad loan because as your cars depreciate and you're paying all the interest, when you go to pay it off, there's no saving any money. So that's a Rule of 78 loan. Next loan is what they call a non-simple interest loan. Okay. That is also called a pre-computed interest loan. So now you say you have a $20,000 car you want to buy, you want to put $10,000 down, you want to finance the balance of that for 4 years. They're going to calculate that interest for the whole 4 years, and that's what your payment is going to be. So now year three comes around, and you want to pay off that car early, right? Pay off the car early. In the States, you would save that interest. You would not be paying interest on a loan that you have anymore. So now what's going to happen in the Philippines, they're going to calculate that payoff, but it's going to include the interest for the whole 4 years. There's no getting around that. That's the loan they have. Again, it's called a pre-computed interest loan. Those are the most of the loans here on cars is that particular loan. Third loan is called Assume. So here's how Assume works because I've been doing a lot of research on this too. So you go to Facebook, you go to Marketplace, and you have all these people that want to sell their cars. And you'll get some new cars in there because some of the dealers are using the Assume loan to get some business. So this is how that works. You're a Filipino because an expat is not going to get a loan. So this Filipina gets a car loan, all right, and they're going to make payments, and then say 6 months, a year, they don't want the car no more. So they'll legally allow you to assume the rest of those car payments, though the car loan will not be in your name, the insurance will not be in your name, the plates will not be in your name. There's a legal contract that's drawn up by a lawyer that you're going to assume the payments. The kicker is that when you go assume this car loan, they're going to want upfront money. And some of these loans that I've seen, people think they're so. A guy's been making on a 5 year loan, he's made 12 months in payments. Now I told you about uh, a non-simple interest loan, right? And a pre-computed interest loan. So most of these cars are that. So now you have this person that has on a 5 year loan made 12 months, 4 years, 12 months have been made. 4 years remaining. So now what happens is she puts it on market. She wants to sell this car. Now she wants you to pay XYZ dollars up front before she allows you to assume those payments. Some of these assumed loans, you're better off. You're going to be paying a lot more for the car if you would finance it, because they're looking to get back some of those 12 months that they have already paid. That is called an assumed car loan. And that's how that works. So, and then you have, of course, you can buy a car cash. So you can go to the dealership, and with cash in hand, you can buy that car, but it's not going to happen overnight. They still have to check you out, make sure the money is not dirty money, and then you'll be able to get the car. So the process is not easy. Here I am spending 6 minutes talking about how you can get a car loan in the Philippines, and it's not highly unlikely going to happen. Watch the video. It'll kind of lead you in a particular way to go. I'll catch you on the tail end.
Thinking of owning a car while living as an expat in the Philippines? Sounds like a fab idea. While there are many ways for you to commute around Metro Manila, it still helps to move in and around the city in the comfort of your own car. Yes, traffic is a major problem, but commuting can also be as wearisome. Thus, if you're an expat who will be living in the Philippines for a year or more, it might be wise to get your own car so it'll be a lot easier for you to navigate the city. Follow this guide on how to buy a car in the Philippines. Buying a car is all fun and good until you get to the not-so-fun part: paying for it. Unless you can pay in cash, you'd still need to find a way to finance the car purchase. And it can be a challenge to secure a car loan if you are an expat in the Philippines. It's not entirely impossible, but you need to have the right information and manage your expectations. The Philippines has many similar financing options for auto purchases as many Western nations. Unless you can pay cash or bank transfer, you may need to seek out available financing options available to expats. Traditional car loans. Almost all of the major banking institutions in the Philippines have pretty robust vehicle loans with terms you will likely be familiar with. A word of caution is that the interest rates can be pretty demanding on your bank account, so make sure you take that into consideration when you are making a decision. Even if you have a bank account in the Philippines, a conventional bank loan is possible for expats, but it is incredibly challenging to achieve. It is not that banking institutions in the Philippines want to make your life more difficult to be discriminatory. But, let's face it, for an unscrupulous person, it would be easy as a foreigner to get a loan and abscond the country should you default on your financial obligations. Banks in the Philippines know this, probably by experience, and so it is quite difficult to get a traditional auto loan as an expat. In-house financing. There is the option of buying from a second-hand car lot that will work out the financing internally or with a preferred bank. Knowing the people involved can really help with this process. Make sure you get terms that are manageable for you and don't settle for an exorbitant interest rate that will see you paying way too much for a vehicle. When purchasing a car, don't let the excitement or immediate need to have access to a vehicle overrule good financial sense, because that can result in money woes in itself. Stay grounded and reasonable, and make sure you understand the interest and borrowing terms very thoroughly. For a very critical financial decision like this, if the person you are working with doesn't speak highly functional English and you haven't learned highly functional local dialect yet, bring along someone you know and trust who can help translate for you. It is always important to know and understand what you are agreeing to when it comes to your livelihood and money. Overseas banking. Lastly, again, it can be incredibly advantageous to keep banking relationships open in your country of origin. I have had to use a line of credit for car repairs from my US-based credit union a couple of times. Because I still maintain an address in the US, I am legally able to do so. I highly recommend maintaining some kind of address in your home country so that you can maintain your bank accounts. Depending on your origin country's credit score or rating system, this can open up personal loans, lines of credit, home equity loans, and other open-ended bank products that can really help in buying a vehicle in the Philippines. Just for clarity's sake, it should be noted that your origin country bank will not give you an auto loan in the Philippines though. Auto loans are collateral loans and a bank not located in the Philippines has no way to collect the collateral, the vehicle, if you were to fail to make payments, so it's not even a reasonable option. However, the open-ended borrowing options can be transferred to the Philippines and used for purchasing whatever you want, including, in this case, a vehicle. How to get a car loan. If you are an expat and you want to get a car loan in the Philippines, several of the major banks will help you and will offer decent interest rates if you qualify. BDO is one, for example, that does loans to foreigners provided they meet the requirements. These car loan requirements in the Philippines can be summed up into a few subcategories. Length of stay. An expat who has resided in the Philippines for a minimum of 2 years and who can document their continued employment, such as via an employment contract, or continued stay in the Philippines. Banks, in this situation, will only extend the loan repayment length to coincide with the employment documents. An example, if you have a 3-year expat employment contract, the bank will only go 36 months on repayment terms. Married to a Filipina. If you have a Filipino family, then often they can get the loan or can co-sign with an expat so that the expat will get the loan. The co-signor actually does not need to necessarily be a family member, but I always find it difficult to ask people to be willing to commit to financial responsibilities on my behalf, so I have never explored this option more fully. However, it is important for you to know that it exists. Via an employer. An employing organization can sponsor the expat for a vehicle loan. Basically, this is the equivalent of your organization co-signing with you and promising repayment if the individual defaults on the payments. Another important requirement for both Filipinos and expats is that you typically must be at least 21 and not over 70 at the maturity of the auto loan. Required documents. If you fall into one of these categories, then great. Getting an auto loan will actually be a pretty straightforward process for you. For the application, you will need to provide ID, typically a passport as best proof of income such as your employment contract or bank statements, proof of your continued residency in the Philippines, a work contract or your visa, your alien certificate of registration, ACR card, and a proof of address such as a utility bill in your name or a copy of your lease. Additionally, if you have a co-signor, they will have to provide documentation as well. Processing is not instantaneous like in some other places around the globe and can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to be approved. So be sure to set expectations that you will not be able to immediately take home your vehicle. An important additional note: your mileage may vary on these recommendations. I have laid out the official processes based on what I know and my experience in the Philippines. But I have heard stories of expats getting auto loans much more easily by knowing the right bank manager or being a frequent customer of a certain branch. I cannot verify those stories independently and have not had a similar experience myself, but you may have smoother sailing, proverbially, than me as well. My advice is meant to give you a realistic perspective of the process so that you can prepare yourself and not be frustrated. So if your process ends up being easier than this, count that as a major expat win. Approval process. If you have all of these things and qualify for financing, the next important thing to take note of is that the approval process takes time. For example, you can walk into a dealership in the US and be approved to leave with your new vehicle within a few hours. In the Philippines, most dealerships and lenders take some time to verify and approve the loan. So it could be a few days to a couple of weeks before your vehicle is released to you. Nonetheless, the process is relatively painless. Someone from the lending institution will likely call to verify details and perform a phone interview. Additionally, as an expat, they may send a service to verify your address and documents in person. This could include verification of employment as well. Think of it as a relatively non-invasive background check which provides assurance to the lender that you are who you say you are and that you do, in fact, have the means to make the repayment. Once the lender is satisfied and the loan is approved for underwriting, you and the dealership will be notified to coordinate the release date. Again, set your expectations that this will not be a same-day process. Interest rates and down payment. It is also important to know if you choose to finance through a Philippine car lender, that you will likely need a down payment. This could be anything from 3% to 20% of the vehicle's value. The more down payment you can afford, the less expensive the vehicle will be over the long term in interest savings. Speaking of interest, this is where you need to pay careful attention to the terms offered to you. Vehicle loans in the Philippines can have interest rates from around 5% to 30% or more. I have not personally seen any extremely low interest rates, such as 1 to 2%, in practice anywhere in the Metro Manila area. The bank will determine the interest rate based on the length of repayment, your overall financial risk, whether you have a cosigner, and your down payment. The last thing to be sure of is to clarify with the bank on early payment of the loan. Sometimes you will still have to pay the full interest of the whole loan or prepayment processing fees to do so. Best bank for car loans. Now that you've made it this far, I'll give you some insight into the best bank in the Philippines for a car loan based on my experience and research. Understand that your background, situation, and needs may make this different, but this is the best in the Philippines based on my time as an expat there. Well, let me be more clear and say I'll give you a handful of banks. If you do not have a company that is willing to help you get the car loan or a Filipino cosigner, then your best bank is BDO. While they do not offer the best interest rates, they are a solid bank with branches and ATMs all around the country. More importantly for this article, they will actually underwrite loans to foreigners. That said, if you do have a company that can assist you or a Filipino cosigner, then there are several banks that are great institutions with much lower interest rates. Metrobank, East West Bank, and BPI all have initial car loan offerings of around 4 to 5%. Of course, getting that rate will depend on your specific circumstances, but it is a much lower starting point than many other banks and, of course, lowering the interest saves you money that you can use to go to Boracay or Palawan for the weekend instead. Now on to you. Financing a vehicle in a new place where things function differently can be overwhelming. And actually spending money is never the fun part of the car buying process, to begin with. That said, it is important to know where you can go to access the purchasing power that you will need to get on the road and have the freedom to experience and live in the Philippines at your own pace. Now you should have a good idea about what can be expected if you want to finance and what alternatives are available if you do not qualify. I hope this will make your car hunting and buying a lot less stressful and a lot more exciting. As always, never forget to carry an umbrella and, Tuloy Ko sa Pilipinas, welcome to the Philippines.
I hope you enjoyed that movie. Don't get aggravated because it's going to be pretty difficult to get a loan. If you got a game plan, the best game plan I could come up with for me is I'm just going to get my SRRV that takes the tourist out of my card that they give you, identification card, and it makes you a resident. That in itself will make it a lot easier to get a loan. Unless, they all ask me the same question. Am I married with the Filipina, or do I have a Filipina girlfriend that will put the car loan in her name? So I said no to both of those. And it's just, and the other thing you should know is they don't have, like I checked with Toyota, Nissan, and Mazda. I haven't checked with Ford, Chevy, Volkswagen, Benz, because there's a lot of some Benzes out here. So I checked with Toyota, Nissan, and Mazda. There's no special financing rates. You know how you could go in the States where they'll have 0% for the 5 years, or certain dollar amounts at 0%. That does not happen here. those type of loans are subsidized by the factory. Toyota does not have to do that here, or Mazda or Nissan. They charge full blown out rate. Are you going to get a break because you got good credit? Probably, but you have to be established here to get the good credit rating. So, and they don't use your good credit out of the States, because I tried that. I had at least 6 different type of Toyota loans. The fact that I have to sign up for a pre-computed interest loan, that's the interest where it's divided equally over the whole term of the loan, and that's what you're paying no matter what. That's a tough pill for me to swallow, because I worked with Toyota. I worked at Toyota for many years in finance. So my options are very limited unless I choose to pay cash, or I choose to get my SRV, which I'm working on right now, and then get a car loan. But even at that, at least that's better than the assumed loan, or better than the Rule of 78 loan. However, down payment's going to mean everything at that point. So you'll minimize the interest that you're paying if you put a large down payment down. But that's if you have an SRV, ACR1 card, and that's what that means. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Or you can buy a used car, which I've heard some good stories, and I've had some really bad horror stories. So, it's like they know how to fix used cars here. So you can be looking at a 2015 or 2012, and it looks like it's in pretty good shape. And that's because there's a lot of people here that know how to fix them and have them run right. So sorry for the bearer of bad news, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next time, be safe.